I believe that anyone can interview well. It's like being sent onto the football field without being taught the rules of the game. So once you know what they're looking for and understand how to play the game, I think anyone can really succeed at interviews. So don't let it stop you from trying to achieve your next role, because it can be taught and you can do well if you put a bit of effort in.
Absolutely. It's just another skill. Just like anything, any skill requires reps. You've got to do the work. You've got to do it more and more. You've got to do it over and over again. And the more you do it, the better you get and the more you start to enjoy it. And then you really shine. Welcome to Saul Searching, the Saul Recruitment Podcast, where we tackle all sorts of great topics in the areas of recruitment, job searching, mindset, technology, marketing, culture, and lots more. It's amazing what you'll pick up. Thanks for joining me. Welcome back, everyone. It's Friday afternoon. I have a fantastic guest and a fantastic new podcast episode for Saul Searching, the Saul Recruitment Podcast. I'm Darren Saul, your host, and it's episode 68. I have the lovely Leah Lambart in the house, and we're going to be talking all about interviews and processes for recruitment and interview processes. You've got the interview. Now don't stuff it up. I love that. So welcome to the show, Leah.
Thanks, Darren. It's great to be here.
My pleasure. Now, for everyone that doesn't know Leah, Leah is a career and interview coach, founder of Relaunch Me, host of the Relaunch Your Career Podcast, and Seek's resident career coach. After navigating several career transitions, Leah founded Relaunch Me in 2014 to help individuals identify their best fit career and to provide them with the knowledge, tools, resources, and confidence to make it happen. With over 12,000 coaching hours under her belt, Leah and her team of coaches are well-versed in helping individuals navigate career change, prepare for interviews, develop leadership skills, and put their best foot forward in their job search. I love it. And it's so important. When I read that, it really hits home as to how much of the job seeking process is preparation. And a lot of times we forget that. It's people think, just turn up or just make an application while you're waiting for the bus. No, it's got to be a very well thought out, carefully crafted strategy and a prepared execution. So I'm glad you're here to talk all about that.
Oh, great to be here, Darren.
So tell us how you fell into this world and why you're so passionate about this.
Yeah, look, it's a good question. Like most career coaches, I didn't start off as a career coach. Started off as a tax accountant, which is very different.
There you go. Logical step.
Yeah, and then I escaped tax. I loved working in a big four firm, loved the people, but really didn't enjoy tax. And I don't think tax liked me either.
Yeah.
And so I moved into recruitment. So I did recruitment for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And during my time in recruitment, so I did 6 years in agency recruitment and then a couple of years in-house recruitment and a bit of stuff with recruitment technology as well, like project management of implementing recruitment tech. So that was a bit of fun. And then I had 3 children and in 4 years. And so I was out of the workforce for quite a couple of years.
You had some other project management to do.
Yeah, definitely. That was the hardest job I've ever done. And it was during that time that I really reflected on what I really wanted to do next. And I always love recruitment, particularly the agency recruitment, but I always liked helping the candidate more than the sales side of recruitment.
Interesting.
When we used to have to do business development, I think most of the time I used to hide in the toilet because I couldn't stand cold calling. It just made my skin crawl. What I liked was helping candidates, first of all, work out what they wanted to do next, understanding their strengths, their values, why their current work environment wasn't working. And then most of all, I loved helping them prep for interviews. So it was around that time I sort of realized that I could do career coaching where I could get to do that part and get paid for it. Because as you know, in recruitment, you don't necessarily get paid for all the helping unless you actually place people.
That's right. And generally, you don't get paid for a lot of the work you do. That's the hardest part. Yep.
yeah, and then I went back and studied career development at RMIT and started doing some contract work in this area whilst I built my own business on the side. So that was 2014 I started. So over 10 years.
Amazing. Congratulations. You've done extremely well. It's obviously been thriving and flourishing, and you've got career coaches under your belt working for your brand as well.
Yeah, look, it's been a really great time and I still love what I do. So I feel very fortunate that I've found something that really ticks those boxes. I feel I get to use my previous experience in recruitment every day, but also use my natural strengths, and also gives me a lot of flexibility. So
love it. Amazing. So now over 12,000 coaching hours, which is incredible. I'd love to kind of get two little insights from you. One, what is the most common thread that you find when talking to candidates? And then what's the most surprising thing that you didn't expect?
Wow, they are questions. Common thread. Look, I work with school leavers right through to people even in their 60s looking at career change. A lot of my clients would be sort of 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. I think probably the most common thread is how many people didn't have good career guidance when they chose their first career. I was really fortunate. I went to a really good school, but I still didn't have a career counsellor. And I worked really hard, got a really good mark, but I left school having absolutely no idea what I wanted to do. And I didn't know myself and I didn't know what suited me. And I think that's a real common thread, that so many people fell into careers or took the advice of well-meaning parents or did something that was just popular at the time. Everyone else is doing commerce, so I'll better do it as well. And I think that's why a lot of people are looking for career change later in life, because they unfortunately didn't have the opportunity to know themselves well enough when they chose their first career.
Yeah, and I would 100% agree. Even myself, I've done a few different things as well and gone through lots of different transformations. And I think when you're young, you don't know yourself enough. You don't know what you're good at, what you're going to like for the long term. And the other thing is, as you grow, you change and you keep evolving. So you can't expect that you're going to do something forever all the time. So there has to be this self-awareness in play. And particularly when you're young and at school, it's really tricky.
Really difficult. And some people just never going to be passionate about anything. Like quite a lot of things, but there's not one thing that really stands out. And that's okay, because passion can grow, or they might change careers several times and do lots of different things.
And what about something that's surprising after those 12,000 hours? Anything that really surprised you?
I would say the thing that surprises me is that people don't value the importance of networking, and they also don't really understand what networking is.
Yeah.
And so what I mean that is when I say to people, do you have a network or have you been networking? I think the first thing that jumps into people's minds is walking into a room like a big industry conference.
A stack of business cards.
Yeah, like a cocktail party and not knowing where to start. They don't realize that they're networking every day, whether that's at the gym, it might be at the school gate, with picking up kids. It might be at the dog park. I did some great networking for a friend at the dog park recently, which got her a job. Just chatting to a neighbour, mentioned her husband was looking for someone in HR. I said, I think I know someone. And it turned out to be a match. So I think people forget that you are networking everywhere. It could be on a plane going up to Sydney for the day. It doesn't have to be on a large scale.
Yeah. And also networking from a digital point of view. The digital footprint these days is so strong. Everything we do digitally is networking.
Yeah, exactly. LinkedIn. And you've got to choose the sort of networking that works for you. If you are more of an introvert, you're probably going to be much more effective building one-on-one relationships and having a coffee meeting or a Zoom chat for 15 minutes rather than going to those events. So I think that probably would be the thing that surprises me again, that is a skill that we probably are not taught at school that we should be.
Yeah, true. There's lots of skills actually that we're not taught at school that we should be. When looking back after you've been working for a little while, you realize, I wish I would have learned more about this or that. And instead we learn all this other stuff that's totally redundant at the moment. But I suppose that's the way it is.
That might be another podcast.
That's another podcast for itself. But I want to pivot a little to preparation for interviews and behavioral style questions, because these tend to trip people up a lot, don't they?
Absolutely. And I think they trick people from graduate level right through to executive level. Yeah. I coach really senior people every week who still don't really know how to answer these questions properly. Again, another skill that should be taught at school and is such an important skill. And the reason why I'm so passionate about this area, first of all, I've been there. My first graduate interview was a complete train wreck. And the reason is because in those days, there was no social media. I think my only prep was buying a half decent suit and knowing the address, and that was about it. So I didn't know what a behavioural question was, wasn't prepared, had no idea really what they wanted from me, and I just wanted the ground to open up and a big black hole to come up and take me away, because I've been there and I felt like what it feels like to fail at an interview. So I'm really passionate about helping people understand how to go about preparing, how to think like a recruiter, and really be able to storytell to demonstrate the capabilities that they're looking for in these jobs.
I love how you brought up storytelling, because it's so important. And you have to have a lot of these stories pre-created and pre-articulated and well-rehearsed. So let's dive into behavioural interviews a little, and maybe just give everybody a good insight into, for some of those people who don't know what they mean, what are they, and how do we go about preparing for them to the best of our ability?
Yes, sure. So a behavioural interview will often start off with some general questions, typical questions around what's motivated you to apply, what are your strengths, do you have a weakness, what do you know about our company, etc. And then they will go into what we call behavioural-based questions, where they ask for a specific example that demonstrates one of the key capabilities that they're looking for in that role. So a behavioural question will start with, tell us about a time when, give us an example, describe a situation, and it will always be linked to one of those key capabilities, such as teamwork, adapting communication, problem solving, critical thinking. More and more, they're also often connected to the values. So you might be asked, tell us about a time when you've demonstrated integrity in the workplace, or a time when you've demonstrated commitment to diversity and inclusion, for example. So if you're asked these questions, they're wanting a very specific example, and we need to provide that example using a structure called the STAR method.
Beautiful. Yep. Still going, huh? The STAR method.
Still going. And so for people who are not aware of what STAR means, S is where you would describe the situation, T is your task or what you needed to do, A is the actions that you took, and R is the result. So although you have a structure that you need to follow, it's still a story. So it's important that you structure your story well, but it still needs to sound like a story and sound authentic and not too robotic. And that's where you need to find the balance.
Yeah, I think that's the key. And like I always try and prepare my candidates when they're going for interviews to say, look, try and get 3 or 4 really strong responses ready that maybe can cross over into a couple of different values or a couple of different attributes. So you don't have to memorize 20, but you might have 3 or 4 that you can use when you need them. Would you say that's a good strategy? Here we go. Love it.
Look, personally, I think you need more.
Okay, cool. Great.
And I probably over-prepare my candidates. They might end up with even 8 to 10. The reason I say that is if they're testing teamwork versus problem solving versus conflict resolution versus innovation, the actions will be all really different.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so there are, just to demonstrate teamwork qualities, there's certain desired behaviours. And they're going to be different behaviours to someone who's a good problem solver or someone who's good at influencing. So I think you have to be really careful with that. Although it sounds great to only have to prepare 3, I would say sometimes it's hard to use them for more than one capability.
Okay, great. Good advice. Well, you heard it there, everybody. 20.
20 is a lot. Look, I do a lot of coaching for aspiring firefighters.
Wow.
And that's a really tough interview. Like, to give you an idea, in Victoria, it's a 45-minute interview. They might get 5 behavioural questions, but they could be 10 or 15 that they could ask. And some of the people that I've prepared for that interview might go in with 30 prepared responses. Not all behavioural questions, but they've prepared for that many questions. They'll have pages and pages of notes.
Yeah. But it goes to show you, like I always say to people, there is so much involved in the preparation before you even turn up. That is where 3/4 of the battle is even won.
Yeah, preparation is key. And most people say to me, like, how do I conquer the nerves? I get so nervous, I go blank. If you do that preparation, that will reduce the nerves, because you can walk in there knowing pretty much whatever they throw at me, I've got a story that's going to demonstrate what they're looking for. And I think that makes a huge difference. The reason why people feel nervous is because they go in there and they're not sure what they haven't really thought about the questions, and they haven't got the stories ready.
Absolutely. And I think as you go in, the more prepared you are, you just feel this relaxed confidence. And as you said, you can tackle anything that they throw at you. You know that you've got some substance to fall back on. So it becomes an enjoyable process as well. And you can really show your real personality, because you're not worrying about every question. What are they going to throw at me, and can I answer it?
Yeah, and look, I get that feedback. Some of those, like that I was saying before, some of those clients I coach for firefighter interviews, they might do 6 or 7 sessions, and they are so prepared. They practice for months. And often they'll say, I really enjoyed it because I got to tell them everything I knew about the service. I got to show, I understand myself better. I know my strengths. I know the challenges that I'm going to have to overcome, and they actually enjoy it. But look, I totally appreciate that some people feel quite anxious about interviews, and not everyone is ever going to feel that way, even if they do a lot of prep. But I think it will definitely reduce the nerves.
Definitely. More prep you do, the better it's going to help you. Even if you don't get asked 3/4 of those questions, just your natural demeanor will be more relaxed and more confident. And that's where the real power is.
Absolutely.
And do you always have to draw on workplace situations, or can you draw on private or family situations or non-work situations?
That will very much depend on where you're at in your career. Obviously, for someone coming in at a graduate entry level, they're not going to have a lot of experience. So recruiters would expect them to use examples maybe from volunteer work, working on university publications, or university projects and group assignments. So those sorts of examples are more than very common for entry-level roles. If you are what I call a relauncher, someone who is relaunching your career after a career break, often someone who's been in a caring role for some time, then they may have been out of the workforce for 10 or 15 years. So they might use examples from kinder committees or helping with school events, influencing children. It might be some parenting examples. Majority of people, if they're at work and in a current role, I think that using examples from work will be much more relatable for the panel.
It makes sense. It makes sense. And I suppose if you really are stuck and you don't have anything, then draw from outside of work, just so people can see, oh, actually this person has that natural ability. It just has to be adapted possibly.
Yeah, it could be a sporting example. Often I coach people who have to demonstrate an example for managing stress or being resilient. So they might talk about something that they've done outside of work that's really made them step out of their comfort zone, and how did they overcome that challenge.
Yeah, I love it. And what happens if somebody really gets stumped and they're at a loss and they don't know how to respond? How do you react to that?
I think we've all been there at some point. It happens. Often people don't breathe very well during an interview. So I would say always breathe from your diaphragm, practice some breathing exercises before you go into the interview, some box breathing. That can really help, because often we go blank when the oxygen's not getting up to our brain. So I think deep breaths, if that does happen, you could always stall a little bit, ask them to repeat the question, ask them to clarify the meaning of the question if you're unsure. Again, if you really can't think of anything, I would ask if you can pass and come back to that question at the end.
I like that. That's a cool one. Yep. I've heard that before, actually. Because you might just think, you know what? In the moment, I just can't think of it. I know that I can answer that really well, but can I come back to that and I'll bring you back a really relevant scenario?
Hopefully by the end of the interview.
Yes.
And make sure, obviously, you then do go back to it.
Yeah, and you be the one to actually initiate that rather than them saying, oh, by the way, you didn't answer that question.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
I love that. Very cool. And something you mentioned really hit home with me as well is that even just the turning up with much more time to spare to the interview makes a huge difference. I know if it's going to be on Zoom or on Teams, even still, turn up 5-10 minutes early, but make sure that you've given yourself some space to get in the zone for the interview. Like, it's nothing worse than turning up for your interview 1 minute before you're meant to get there and you're all frazzled and you've just managed to get a parking spot and you can't remember which floor you're meant to be on, and then it's already a disaster from the beginning because you're totally in the wrong state.
Definitely arrive early. I would always say that there is also a lot to be learned from sitting in reception about the culture of an organisation.
Yeah, that's true. I've heard that too.
Many old clients, candidates over the years who've sat in waiting rooms in reception and noticed how people have spoken to the receptionists or whether there's sort of a team atmosphere there. So I think you can often learn a lot about a company culture from just watching what happens in the reception or in the waiting room. So I think that could be interesting. Often people are also asked to go and do group assessments. Again, I think I would always arrive early, try and build some rapport, get to know people in the group. Because if you're doing those group activities, you're going to feel much more comfortable if you've been able to have a chat to a few people, learn people's names, which you can use in the assessment as well. So definitely always arrive early. Some of that really good some using breathing techniques will get you in the zone.
Focus. And something that you mentioned as well is really fascinating. I've heard before that some interviewers will actually use how you interacted with the receptionist as an indicator of your personality and your fit. So that's even something to consider as well, is as soon as you get there, you're in play.
Absolutely. And I've heard of many times where they've actually gone and asked the receptionist about that candidate as they came into the interview, how were they polite, those sort of things. So you are being observed and judged from the minute you walk in those doors.
100%. It's fascinating to me. Like all these are the little hidden subtleties of the interview process and the recruitment process that you have to be so careful. Now, I want to pivot a little and talk about body language, because this is another one that a lot of people don't really pay a lot of attention to. So I'd love you to speak to that a bit.
Body language, also very important. Sitting up straight, leaning forward slightly to show interest and enthusiasm. I think one of the most important things is also letting the interviewer control the interview. Mm-hmm. So giving some silence is okay, giving some space for them to actually ask questions. You don't have to jump in straight away. It's okay to really think and show that you're responding with some consideration. So definitely firm handshake. If you are someone who doesn't go to formal meetings very often, practice at home, handshake, looking people in the eye contact with both people on the panel, but sometimes you might have 3 people on the panel. You want to be making eye contact with all 3. There's some definitely really important things to think about there, not just what you say, but how you say it and how you show up with your body language.
Yeah, it's so important because I think it's 70 or 80% communication is non-verbal. We're intuitively adjusting and reading each other's body language constantly, and it gives us so much more messaging and insight than what we say.
I'll also add to that is active listening.
Yeah.
Because we can go into these interviews with some great prepared responses, but what we have to be really careful of is that we actually answer the question and don't just give the response that we've prepared at home.
So true, because then you get really mechanical and you start to lose your personality and authenticity as well, which is not what we want.
No, so lots of listening, lots of eye contact. And I think it also pays to send a nice note after the interview thanking the panel if you've got their details, reinforcing your interest in the role, and perhaps reminding them why you think it will be a great fit.
And what about virtual interviews? Because that's become a massive phenomenon now. Like a lot of my clients, probably 90% of the time, will do Teams interviews. And it could be with a panel of 4 or 5 people sometimes. How do we adjust to that?
I would prepare the same as you would in-person interview. Obviously, you want to have your tech sorted on before the day. So do some practice runs. You don't want to be stuffing around with tech. Again, that will get you really stressed and frazzled. I've had that happen plenty of times. So get the tech sorted. You also want to have the right camera angle. So you don't want to have the panel sort of looking up your nostrils.
Yes, definitely. So put the camera above and bring it down so you're kind of being viewed from here.
Yeah, sort of head and shoulders, your chin cut off. And look, I coach a lot on Zoom. I see those sort of boo-boos, just usually because people are not used to working on Zoom or Teams. Teams can also be, I don't know, I find I use Zoom. When I swap over to Teams, I always feel like it's a bit clunky. So I think if you're not used to using that platform, make sure you practice how to use it. Get your camera angle right. Make sure your lighting is good. So you want preferably a fairly clear background, light on your face coming from behind your screen.
I think that's so true. Like sometimes first thing I do when I'm interviewing candidates on Zoom, which is what I do a lot, is I say, can you just blur your background a little? Because sometimes they've got the bed behind them and the sheets haven't been made and the robe is hanging from the cup. Saying, we don't need to see this.
No, don't want naked flatmates walking through or anything like that.
So people have got to really think about how they're showing up. And this is a big part of it. What's behind you?
Yes, lots of things to think about. And obviously the internet needs to be secure as well. Like I think there's nothing more frustrating than trying to have a conversation when the internet's dropping out and you're freezing. Like that's a bit of a...
That's terrible. It happens, yeah. So check your connections, tether it to your phone if you need a stronger connection sometimes just for the interview. Check your tech beforehand, do a few practice runs, make sure the background's either clean or blurred. We don't want to see what's behind you or anybody cooking in the background.
No chewing gum.
No chewing gum, all this kind of stuff. I mean, this is...
One of my fellow recruiters from years ago, we did a podcast and she was telling me about a time she interviewed someone who was eating a kebab, who brought
oh, no, you're joking.
Kebab into the interview. So
no, I can't believe that.
No kebabs either.
No, at least bring a pizza with everybody and share it. No, I'm just kidding. Don't bring food into the interview. Oh, no, or drinks. Oh, that's a disaster. No way. Can't believe that. No. Now, before I go further, is there anything else that you want to talk about from an interview prep or interview execution point of view before we kind of dive into the general part of recruitment and candidates as well?
Probably something else I'd like to just mention is how important it is to try and put yourself in the shoes of the recruiter. As much research you can do about the organization, the industry, thinking about what challenges might be coming, what might be happening for that company or for that role right now. Is there a lot of change happening in the industry? Has a new piece of legislation or policy been brought in? Are you going to be replacing someone who's been in the role for 20 years, which means there's going to be a massive effect on the team that you'd be managing? So I think sometimes being able to put yourself in the shoes of that role and what would be keeping the recruiters up at night, what will they be worried about? Then thinking, when have I dealt with things like that before? How did I do it? And what examples can I use to demonstrate that I've done this before and I've done it well?
Love that. So important. I think all this pre-prep, it's really a lot of pre-prep and putting yourself in the shoes of the other person. That's really empathy in a way. It's not about what's in it for you. It's what's in it for them. What do they want to get out of this? So you really got to tailor your responses and the way you come across so that you've done your research and you know what you're walking into. It's about awareness. And
as you would know, Darren, if you are being interviewed, there is an assumption that they believe you have the right experience. So what the interview is checking, how do you behave? How will you, assuming you've got the technical skills, do you have the people skills that sit around that? Are you good at collaborating? Are you able to influence change? Are you able to build teams? So it's all those, we don't call them soft skills anymore. It's the people-centric skills.
Oh, is that right? I'm glad you said that because I still call them soft skills. So they're called people-centric skills.
They're called people-centric skills or power skills.
Power skills. Okay. So communication and all, that's all power skills or people-centric?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I've learned that today. Good.
Yeah. So that's what the interview is about. And that's why the behavioural questions are so important, because they want to know, how do you behave when you're dealing with these challenges?
So true. And what about AI in the assistance of preparation? What's your take on that now? Because you can take this as far as we can go.
So I guess the first thing is resumes have to be built for robots and built for people. As we know, recruitment technology, a big part of that is screening against keywords. So we need to make sure resumes are tailored and keyword optimized for that role. So these systems have been around for a long time, but more companies, I guess, are using them now than they used to, particularly in the Australian market where we have high volumes of candidates across most industries at the moment. So I guess that's the first thing. The second thing is high volume recruitment. They are using AI also to screen video interviews.
Wow.
So if you're doing pre-recorded interviews, so often in graduate applications for firefighters, police, etc., where you have to log on and do a recorded interview with no one at the other end, a one-way interview, they can be using AI to be listening to the interview responses, again, screening against keywords.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so I guess we have to be really tailored with our responses and really hitting the keywords that they want to hear, not just in the resume, but in interviews as well.
And what about like ChatGPT to use in your own prep? That's a really powerful tool.
Yeah, look, absolutely. I think ChatGPT is a great tool to help you with some of your examples, obviously thinking about how you can change your achievements into stories. So it's a great tool that can be used as part of the preparation process.
Yeah. Or even if you need to learn a bit more about the environment or the industry that the company is in. ChatGPT, see what comes out.
Great way to do research about companies, research their competitors, research what's happening in the market to demonstrate that commercial awareness and business acumen.
Yeah, so true. So it just goes to show how much more complex it's getting. We're dealing with virtual interviews. We're dealing with AI, tech now, people-centric skills, technical skills. I mean, you've really got to be on the ball and you've got to be prepared.
I would say don't rely on it too much, because if everyone's using it, they're going to get the same result. I recently had a client who was told that she was offered a graduate interview and she and the other person were the only ones that hadn't used AI to write their cover letter.
Oh, wow.
I don't know how they could tell, but that's what she was told. Yeah. That was one of the reasons why she was selected.
Interesting. So true. Leah, I'd love an example of maybe how you've coached someone through the process from the beginning to the end, and let's hear about a great success story. Have you got something that you can share?
Okay. So look at the process. If people book in for an interview, the first thing I would do is ask them to send me their resume and their application documents. And we want as much information about the role as possible. So the job ad, the position description, sometimes for more senior roles, there's a candidate pack, which we can download. I then study all of that and send them really detailed prep work to do before the session. So I'll say to them, I want them to come to the session with responses for these general questions and really specific examples in the star format for these key capabilities or values. Then in our session, I get them to record the session and we go through all their responses so that I can make sure that they're hitting the right behaviors, helping them with the structuring and the storytelling. Sometimes one session is enough. For most, a lot of people, it's just understanding what they want to hear and then going away and practicing their examples. For people who haven't done an interview for a long time or never had an interview, sometimes, particularly if it's a really competitive interview like the emergency services, sometimes they'll do more than one session because there's so much to cover and it's something that they might find it difficult to come up with the examples themselves. So I sort of help them understand what they're wanting to look for, what they're looking for in that example. And then we brainstorm ideas from their work history that will fit those responses.
Perfect. And does your service extend to even helping people with their resume, helping people with career coaching in terms of where they might be suited, like holistically?
Yeah, so huge part of our business is career coaching. And so that's for people who, like I said, it could be recent school leavers right up to people in their 60s, 70s, I guess. These days, people are working a lot longer. But most of them are either people who are not enjoying their current career and want to explore alternative options, or it could be someone who wants to progress their career. So they know where they want to be, but they're not sure how to get there. So we often work with them to even do like a 360 assessment, which they can get some of their peers, manager, etc., to do. And then we use that feedback to build out a career development plan.
Beautiful.
And work on sort of 2 or 3 really key areas and think about really specific actions and strategies that they can take to build that skill to get them to that next level.
Love it. So if they want to be promoted into a certain area, a certain team, or they have a time frame for something, you can help them on that journey.
Yeah, so that's the career coaching. We've got a team of writers who do resume, cover letter, LinkedIn, selection criteria. There's the interview coaching, and I also do some strengths coaching, which is using a strengths assessment. That's probably a discussion for another day. But that's all about job crafting and trying to help people understand how they can use their strengths more to be more engaged, more energized at work.
Love that. It just goes to show you how much we're just touching the tip of the iceberg. There's so much underneath all this. So we're going to have to bring you back again for another episode where we dive deeper into some of these other things as well.
That sounds fun.
But I'd love to hear more about your work with Seek. What's happening with Seek?
Yeah, so I've been working with Seek for over 3 years now. So that's been a great relationship, partnership. So I do a lot of work with Seek and sort of a bit of a spokesperson for media. I don't think people realize how much Seek do to help job seekers. So obviously there's the jobs board, but there's also a big section of their work is on career advice, providing assistance to people who want to resign from a job, how to manage performance reviews, feedback. So on the Seek website, there's a tab that's separate from the job board, and that's full of career advice, salary information. Obviously, their salary information is up to date because they're recording it every day. So you can go in there and look at average salaries for different jobs. What does it mean to be a software engineer? So there's great career advice on different career areas. Yeah, you can go and do reviews of companies now. They've got like another tab, really? Look at company reviews and also search for recruitment companies.
As well. Wow, so there's becoming a really serious database of information.
Yeah, I love that they really care about their job seekers. And so the work that I'm really passionate about, the work that I do with them as well.
That's amazing. Do you do general workshops with them, or is it more consulting?
Generally more media, speaking with radio or television and providing comments and feedback on articles.
Okay, amazing. Brilliant.
Yeah, we've done a few Facebook Lives in the past, but not recently.
Amazing. Love it. And now I believe you have your own podcast. Is that right?
Yes, I do. It's called the Relaunch Your Career Podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been doing it for a long time, but I'm not as consistent as you are, Darren. Bit of a mix there. There's some interviews with people about different career areas and just general advice on searching for jobs, interviews, and just typical sort of challenges that people need to overcome during the recruitment process.
Beautiful. Do you have guests on your show, or is it more you just by yourself?
Yes, I absolutely have guests, and I definitely prefer having guests than doing solo episodes.
Yeah, it's fun to talk to somebody else. You get a whole new perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it.
Okay, amazing. So everybody please check that out. It's called the Relaunch Me podcast, yes?
Relaunch Your Career.
Relaunch Your Career podcast.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, it's been absolutely brilliant having you on the show, Leah. I mean, we've covered just the tip of the iceberg, so I really want to have you back, and I encourage the audience to, after you've listened to this, please write in and let us know what you'd like some deep diving in, because we'd love to bring you another episode that is going to be really more extensive in a particular area of the job seeking process, because it is a huge process, and you could do an hour or two on every little part of this process. It's huge. So we've touched the tip of the iceberg. We've got some little insights and general psychological hacks as well. But please tell us a bit more about what you'd like to deep dive in, because we'd love to bring that to you. And if anybody wants to find out more about you, Leah, how do we do that?
Best way to find out is the Relaunch Me website, which is just relaunchme.com.au. Feel free to also connect with me or follow me on LinkedIn. I've got a LinkedIn newsletter and I post there fairly regularly as well. So if anyone has any questions from today, really happy to chat to them. Or if they feel like they want to uplift their interview game, feel free to give me a call and I can talk you through the process further.
Awesome. And then I'm assuming that you would work globally as well.
Absolutely, yes.
These days with technology, you could be anywhere.
Often work with people in overseas, US, all sorts of places.
Amazing. That's awesome. Well done. Well, I'm very impressed with what you're doing. I think it's fantastic. Well done. Keep up the good work. Keep building the team. Would you like to leave the audience with anything in particular before we finish up?
Oh, look, all I would say is, since we've been speaking about interviews, I believe that anyone can interview well. It's like being sent onto the football field without being taught the rules of the game. So once you know what they're looking for and understand how to play the game, I think anyone can really succeed at interviews. So don't let it stop you from trying to achieve your next role, because it can be taught and you can do well if you put a bit of effort in.
Absolutely. It's just another skill. Just like anything, any skill requires reps. You've got to do the work. You've got to do it more and more. You've got to do it over and over again. And the more you do it, the better you get, and the more you start to enjoy it. And then you really shine.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's something that it will hold you back if you don't overcome that fear. So don't let it do that. You want to learn that skill and develop your career.
Beautiful. Well, Leah, thank you so much for coming on the show. Everybody out there, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Please share it with friends and colleagues that might find it interesting and useful, and write in if you'd like us to do a deep dive into some areas that you might have been interested in during the show as well. So everyone, have a great weekend. Leah, thanks again for coming on, and we're definitely going to see you again. Everybody, we'll see you at the next episode of Saul Searching, the Saul Recruitment Podcast. Bye for now. Thanks again for joining me for another episode of Saul Searching, the Saul Recruitment Podcast. If you'd like to join me as a guest on the show, I would be delighted to collaborate. Feel free to buzz me on 0414 659 800 or email me on darren@saulrecruitment.com.au. I'm always on the lookout for great guests who can share their stories and expertise with my community. But for now, though, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time.